All right, Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Uh, I probably should have said this before we started recording, but uh, I'll just say it anyway. Miss Phoebe just got out of the hospital last evening. Okay, so she and Pastor both are kind of tired. He may or may not join us this morning, so we'll see how that goes. But as we do always, we'll see if we have any questions. Anybody have any questions, anything that got their attention? Anything besides this weather, by the anyway. No one?
Ron, and I know we talked about it, well, y'all talked about it before on the line about, when people pass and they're saying they gone over there to be with their relatives, and they just saw them or they hug and they just got there. And it's a scripture, but I can't remember the scripture. Maybe if somebody can remember the scripture, if they can tell me, because I want to share it with my family. Because some of my family members, it's like when it's one of them that passed away birthday, they'll text and say happy heavenly birthday to my so and so, my mother and my sister or whatever. And I cannot seem to get them to understand that they're not hearing that. So if anybody knows the scripture where it kind of explains that, something about when one is dead, when death, the state that they're in or something, there's no recognition of earthly things. And I know we talk about the ancestors, as far as like they talk to us. I'm trying to get a better understanding so I can explain it to them.
Anybody familiar with the scripture that Kathy is referring to?
Hey everyone, this is Nick.
Hey,
Um,
Nick.
I'm not familiar with the specific scripture, but I can just speak to those concepts, I think. But I'll see if anybody else knows the scripture first. Maybe I'll see if I can look it up, but I can speak to those concepts in any case. Um, so it is as if there is a a veil of sorts between, or a veil of experience between this physical material experience and those other realms that we pass into when we leave our physical bodies for the last time. And we do have the ability to communicate with those on the quote unquote other side. And we do have the ability to visit those uh, places and see those things while we are still here in the physical material experience. However, it does become more difficult the sort of further away someone gets after they pass out of this physical body for the last time. It's a little bit like imagine like a cell phone signal. The closer you are, the stronger the signal, or like a radio signal. The further away, the more difficult it is to get a message, or the more you have to be able to go uh, to deal with that distance in terms of your spiritual ability, um, and your conscious use of your ability to communicate with the ancestors and other people. Now, I will say on a regular, sort of more mundane, for lack of a better term, level, when we talk about religion and the more sort of superficial aspects of what we think about as prayer and whatever little rituals things are involved in our religious practice especially in Christianity, then I would say yes, those things, it's very unlikely that they would travel far, if you get my meaning, into those realms that exist beyond this physical because of the nature of the consciousness of the people who are uh, trying to put those messages out there. Basically, if it is a just like a casual thing that we might say in conversation, then it is likely that it doesn't penetrate very far, though there are probably exceptions to the rule. But my point is, the more meditative focus we can put behind something, the more we can sort of uh, penetrate that veil of perception that exists that appears to separate this experience, what we experience now in the physical, and the uh, um, what we might think of as the afterlife, which is really here now. It's just a different area of the total uh, spiritual, metaphysical, and energy experience of what reality is. So anyway, I hope that was at least helpful because I don't remember the specific Bible quotes, but all of those concepts are related to our ability to actually interface with uh, these non-physical realms as we know ourselves as non-physical beings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, I agree with Nick. I don't. I think we do have access, Kath. I remember when I was a kid, and especially talking to a child, you'd say, "Well, so and so isn't gone the way you think they are because they live in you. That still lives in you," and it enabled the child to have a level of comfort. And I think there's some truth to that. Uh, this thing we talk about energy all the time, and love is energy. So if I'm close to somebody and they transition, then that person is still with me. I remember my uncle used to talk to himself all the time, and everybody knew he was talking to his wife. His wife was dead, but that brought him comfort. Uh, so I do think there is a way to communicate. I don't think you necessarily have to uh, sit down and chant or do other means of doing so. I think you desire to be with that loved one or to find comfort from them, and you have comfort if that is your desire. So I just wanted to just say that, agree with Nick. I don't. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if there's any harm for them thinking of that person. I think it's more comforting to them than it is the person whose birthday uh, it may be on that particular day. Does that make sense?
So it's like the familiar things that we are a familiar person that we are familiar with is like, okay, let me give you an example. My cousin said that after my aunt passed, which was his mom, when she passed, he came back and told him something about his nephew, and he said, "Mama came to me and said," so with that love that he had in his heart for her, it's like the familiar things that I guess that came to him to let him know that what he's supposed to do. Am I saying it right?
Sounds right to me. Nick, do you have a comment?
It sounds good to me. Yeah, I just wanted to, if you're finished, um,
Okay. Yeah, I was finished.
I was going to agree. Yes, the energy of love is something that goes much further, in terms of the radio waves,
Yeah.
than a more superficial thought, whatever that thought might be. The energy you think about and you project and you feel towards people even after they've passed has an effect on them or
Oh,
can have an effect, and it's much more likely that that energy would. Now that goes both ways. To without sounding harsh, there's nothing wrong with grief, but it, grief has its time, and then we must let it go. Because to become too attached to sadness or a negative feeling associated with that person also has an effect on their energy in the other realms. And of course, they're not, totally subject to us. It also depends on them. But my point is, it has an effect. It has some sort of influence. So there are positive ways to influence and potentially negative ways to influence someone who has already passed, depending on the energy that we are sending them with our thoughts and intentions and our feelings and stuff like that.
So that's where the grief comes in when they stay so attached.
There's a point at which, like I said, it's a natural thing. But there's a point at which it, we must, it's a natural thing, the natural process. There's a point at which we begin to heal and recover from that. But if we over attach in that way, then it can create problems.
I
Um,
meant to say depression instead of grief.
yeah. Um, and one other thing is I wanted to say it also works the other way around to someone who has already passed over beyond the veil of perception. They might ask themselves the same question: why can't I contact the people back here? But it's the same concept. It is a perceptual and energy separation, quote unquote. And if you understand the means by which you can communicate with people who have passed over now, it's the same principle that allows you to communicate with people back here when you pass over.
And I've probably had more experiences with other people than my own family. I probably had maybe 2 or 3 instances with my mom, and she passed in like 2000, and my brother right behind her, which was only probably about once with him. My sister, none, but it was been with other people that I know, that I went to church with.
Yeah. hmm We all have uh, sort of different subtleties in our relationships with people. Our family may be so close, or heaven forbid, distant, but our family may be so close we just don't even think about it. Whereas our friends might be somebody we uh, put more conscious effort into in a way. But I guess that's just an example I can think of, but that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Is there anyone else?
Grand Rising. This is Angela. I just wanted to add, like, my loved one's birthday. When their birthday do come around, I since we doing was talking about libation, so I do, I'll pour out, libation, like on their birthday when they come around. I'll pour out and do it in that way. Just letting them know that I haven't forgotten about them. I'm still thinking about them, but that's what I do. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you, Angela. And again, if I'm wrong, you guys tell me I'm wrong, but I think anything you do to bring comfort to yourself, as we remember these things, and we I guess celebrating it isn't quite the word, but in remembrance of our loved ones, whatever you do that to bring thought to that and bring peace to yourself, then I think it's okay. If that's what makes you feel good to do, pour out libations and it helps to bring you comfort, then I don't see anything wrong with that. So I just say continue to do whatever you do.
I would say I would agree and say if you ever do any ritualistic practice like that, just try to do it with positivity and intent, because that crosses the veil more efficiently. Anyway, thank you.
You know, when I was little, I remember older people talking about visitations and talking about what Ron was saying about his uncle, talking to the wife, but none of them ever did it through meditation.
Mm-mm.
Neither did they do it through chanting. They just did it. And it is my contention that the reason they did it, that they were able to do it that way, is because they were much closely connected in terms of their, not just their memory, but in terms of their spiritual essence. They're more in contact with that and the connection between those who had transitioned than we are today, because we have far more distractions and there are far more debates about it not being real and the impossibility of it. However, I do believe that we are in the process of being awakened in that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good discussion so far. Anyone else? Any other topic that may have crossed your mind?
Related to this is the idea that as this knowledge and these abilities and things like that become more expressed in people as we move through this great shift that humanity is going through. I believe there will be uh, a time period where things like this will become more openly demonized. And by that I mean real spiritual experience and ability uh, utilized in whatever practical way is possible, but also uh, without even necessarily having to think about it as our uh, ancestors may have. My point is that all of these things, as they become more part of our experience and our awareness, the pushback against them will be, I believe, similarly, at least for a short time anyway, depending on how this plays out. But the pushback against these things will be similar to, like we think of that period during Europe where they were burning witches at the stake and stuff like that. Like that's the same mindset that exists here now, and the same mindset that does not want that kind of genuine spiritual awareness and ability to take hold or take root in the awareness of people in general. And like I said, that's we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah, I think that is something that we will be more aware of as our own experience changes and as we see these things become more prevalent, but also the pushback to them.
Nick, I agree with that. And the greatest pushback that I've seen so far in relationship to what happened in New Orleans with ICE and the voodoo what is it? I forget the word. Anyway, is it came from the church, and the more I look at, the more I see read about it online, and hear about it through other sources. The people of African descent, in particular, is embracing and publicly embracing it right now. And everyone on this phone knows that when we grew up, there was much talk about um, voodoo and working roots. And we all demonized it. However, we never denied that it was real. We would say they can't do that to you because you saved. But the denial of it being real was those who denied it were very few people. So what am I saying? I am saying that this is becoming more and more prevalent in African communities, in the Cabelonian communities, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in a very positive way. I do believe that the ancestors are awakening us to that because when we talk about the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, they're spiritual. This is a weapon of our warfare. The way that the practitioners utilize the voodoo dolls with the pins, etc., worked. They were very efficient in keeping ICE out of communities. And as I read about responses to it from people who were not from New Orleans, the younger people are embracing it. And quite frankly, I'll say this because she didn't hide it at all. One of my daughters has been a practitioner for quite a while. And when she first mentioned it to me, she thought I was going to be upset about it because I'm a preacher, but I wasn't. I simply said that's culturally correct when it comes to us, and I see that happening more and more in our community. And I do believe that this is one of the major avenues that we will travel in order to bring balance to the earth. Because what's happening now are efforts to mitigate the change that they know, they meaning the prevails of evil, they know is in the air. And they sense the loss of control, and they sense that there is no fear. And they also know that there has to be a reason that we are not engaged politically in the streets doing any of this. It's all about our awakening to the spiritual nature of who we are. And the latter thing I want to say is something else that we are waking up to. We are waking up to the reality that when we vote on a national level, it makes no difference. Nothing changes no matter who wins. When we vote on local levels, we do have influence. But on national levels, it does not matter at all. So I'm saying that along with this major shift, is a shift from expectation of any political change whatsoever, based upon the methods that have been given to us to change things politically. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nick.
Ron, this
Yes, ma'am.
is Angela.
Hey,
I
Angela.
wanted to add to yesterday. Well, it wasn't a conversation, but I was at work and I was going into one of my resident rooms, and she was talking about sin. She was saying something about sin eaters. And I asked, I said, what is sin eaters? She said, when they put
And
out food for their look, huh?
you saying sin, S-I-N eaters?
Uh-huh. Yeah, she said sin eaters.
Okay.
And I asked her what was that, and she said when people put out food for their loved ones who don't transition. And I told her, I said, that's not evil in my culture. In my culture, that's how we honor our ancestors. That's not evil. But I didn't get into details, with her about it. But yeah, I said that's how I honor my ancestors too. But yeah, she said she saw something on the History Channel, but I just kind of gave her just a little bit and just told her, no, it's not evil. That's how we honor our ancestors and our culture, because when they pass away, they're physically gone, but they're spiritually with us.
Angela,
That's
I
all I
think,
had to say.
oh, thank you. I think probably a couple of people want to speak to that, but uh, my take on it, something I told Pastor a while back. I kind of see myself now as a blank slate. I'm not sure anything I've ever been told or taught is being real or truth, and especially when it comes to spiritual things. So I, I, uh, I something like that to me would maybe be hard to explain to her, but just I guess that's the importance of doing what we do on the phone, so you know who you are and be comfortable for who you are when people try to move you in another place or another position, because stuff like that can be detrimental when people offer their opinion without not knowing what they're talking about. But anybody else?
Yes. Um, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're describing an altar, basically. Is that correct? Or something similar?
Yeah, that's what she was explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just brought it up. You weren't like we was in a conversation about it. She just said, and I just asked her what it was. But yeah, that's what she was talking about. Setting out
Yeah.
food.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot to go into with that, but I have uh, a couple in my house, but they're dedicated to principles. But that is like I said, there's a lot to go into that as far as it relates to our ancestors and how that actually affects the people or beings or entities in the realms of spirit, which are here now. It's just that it's a difference in perception, energy, frequency. But anyway, yeah, like I said, whenever a ritual is used with positivity and love and intent, then it will never be it cannot produce anything negative. Um, but I would say the same potential for sort of empty ritual that we see in a lot of quote unquote mainstream religion is also possible in these practices that are us remembering what the ancestral relationship with the spirit world was. Um, so depends on the person, depends on who's doing it, depends on why they're doing it, etc. In the concept of the altar, the altar, it can be useful for attracting entities or energy to you. It can be useful for uh, assisting entities or energies in the quote unquote afterlife. That includes ancestors, although I will say, like I was saying earlier, the quote unquote, the further away they get from this physical material experience, the less of an influence something like that would have on them if they even required it or needed it or found it helpful in the first place. But it can be helpful um, for various reasons. But the sin eater concept is present, and I think in a lot of spiritual ancient traditions and just different cultures around the world. But that is where you sort of without any of the other connotations, it's a little bit like confession in the Catholic Church. You sort of project negativity, or you express the negativity to uh, someone or something that has the ability to metabolize it and then heal it and balance it, essentially. So I think the original concept is just about needing to release and express anything negative that you may feel for the purpose of reestablishing harmony and balance in the community, in yourself, individually, etc. And the sin eater, quote unquote, is the thing that absorbs or deals with that negativity. Is, I believe, the original concept of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? I love this group. We never know where our discussions are going, or what we're going to talk about, and I love that. Anything else? Anybody?
Did does everyone know who Ray J is? The singer. But I bring him up because he was in the news recently because he said he unfortunately has, I think, some sort of potentially terminal heart condition. But he said he was going to Haiti to visit some voodoo practitioners. So I think it's interesting that something like that is in our, and this is like within the last, I don't know, few days, a week or something like that, but that is in the, as we've been speaking about, the sort of mainstream understanding of possibility. What effect it has, who knows? But the point is that is the attempt to remember and reincorporate those things that our ancestors knew innately. Because the sort of superficiality and materiality of, and the lack of spirituality found in much of religion is, I mean, it's writing on the wall. Everyone knows what it is. Did everyone see that or hear about that? You know who Drewski is? A comedian on social media, and he did a skit about how megachurch pastors love money. It was pretty good. But that is, people know what it is. You know why you're there. And you know where to go if you need something genuine, and it's not there for the most part.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. I did not hear that. But you're right, that speaks volumes.
We talk about, we use the term the return, and we think about the return as being geographical when it really isn't. It's much more than that. And then we talk about also following a pathway that's led by genealogies to find out where we came from. We see that's something that we seek emotionally in an academic way. But when we talk about our memory, that in itself is a greater return with more depth to it and more understanding than any physical return could ever be. And when we seek to be who we were created to be, we also become physicians because physicians takes care of the body and its ailments. It also takes care of the bodies of those who came from the womb of the African woman. When you think about the idea of medicine itself, what we have now is not medicine. What we have now is profiteering. We have chemicals that put band-aids on gunshot wounds. True medicine is what we experienced before Rockefeller ended all not natural treatment in this country. And every single doctor who used natural treatments gathered their information and training from the children of Akebalon. There were doctors in this country who looked like us, who were called the physician's assistant. And they were the one who was actually doing the healing. And the Caucasian doctor was getting the credit for it as a doctor. And we are returning to those roots now. And when I say we are returning to those roots, our memory is being awakened to every area of our existence. And there are quite a few of us who are in search of the natural healings that we experience when we grow up. And when we think about what happened, when we look at the measles now, kids are dying from the measles and they're getting vaccinated. And when we grew up, yes, we got vaccinated, but we got the measles. When we had the measles, we were given pine needle tea and stuff like that in order to deal with the measles, the mumps, etc. And I don't remember anyone dying from it when we grew up. So I'm saying that we are being awakened to it. It's almost like a gentle force that's pushing us in that direction, because we cannot talk about having a balanced society if we are, as gods, are unable to bring healing to the body ailments of humanity. So I see that that's where we are right now, and that's one of the major reasons that we are talking about voodoo and hoodoo and other aspects of our spiritual awakening in terms of the healings of the body. Thank you.
Not only do I not remember anybody dying from measles, or I don't even remember there being a fear of such a thing. Not from measles. You you gave you whatever was offered to you, whether it was mama, grandmother, whoever, and you went to bed or did whatever they told you to do, and you had all assurances that you were going to be okay. So yeah. Anyone else? We've been on the line here about 44 minutes. I have something I'm kind of excited about, and I just wanna put it out there because I can't keep still about this. Uh, and I hope it makes sense. I am in Second Chronicles chapter 20, And I want to read something to you, a verse that you're all familiar with, and the background of this actually starts in Second Chronicle chapter 19, but uh, yeah, I'll start in that chapter 20 just for sake of time. Then he said, listen, all Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, the king and King Jehoshaphat, thus saith the Lord to you, do not fear or be dismayed because of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Uh, we're all familiar with that, or most of us are, I hope. Uh, I look at that and I see something here. That's some scripture I've been looking at for quite a while, but being overwhelmed, I won't go out as far as to say it's necessary, but I will say that it is quite beneficial because being overwhelmed takes you back to beginning. And I think beginning uh, has been clouded to us because of Genesis and the story that they put out. And I was looking at beginning from the writings of the Shabaka stone and pulling that together and trying to make sense of this. Because if you look at that verse I just showed you, 20 and 15 in Second Chronicle, excuse me, in Second Chronicle, uh, which part of that? All of that comes together. All of that is who you are. And Nick mentioned earlier the community that is you and the community that you live in. That community in you is coming together with this. And what you find out is when you see beginning as it truly is, looking at it from the principles of Shabaka Stone, what you understand is what you're coming back to is not what left or what you are now. You come back as a more complete being. You come back as something who understands and understands that I need this. This is a part of me and I need this. You see that the water of none is a reservoir. It is a reservoir of love. It is a reservoir of completeness. It is a reservoir of energy. So it is like the number 7 and 8 coming together. If 7 is completeness, you enter 8 with all of this experience. You enter 8 with all of this knowledge and this intimacy of understanding who you are. So when you come back to beginning, you're not coming back just to start over. You're coming back as a more complete being and leaving to become the more. So uh just maybe at some point we have time to open this up and get into it. I just kind of saw that a little differently because if you look at this, especially if you look at uh the first verses in that chapter, the first verses in that chapter says, and now it came about after this that the sons of Moab and the sons of Ammon came together with the Midianites. Who are the Moabites and the sons of Ammon? You first hear about them when Lot sleeps with his daughters in the cave. So these are the nations that came. Moab is from the oldest daughter, and the sons of Ammon are from the youngest daughter. So what is that saying? This is a part of you. This is a part of you. So you saying, well, there was a time I could have dealt with this, Lord, and you didn't let me. In other words, this is something that it's time for you to deal with now because you've reached a more mature state. You're not the person that you were then. You've grown into something. If you follow chapters 19 and 20, look at what you've grown into. And now it's time to deal with these things that come up in you. So these things don't come up in us just haphazardly and we get overwhelmed by it. There's a reason because we are prepared to deal with them. And even the things that we see around us and things that's going on now, we are prepared to deal with it. And we are the catalysts that make them pop up. They don't just pop up out of at random. So I just saw that and it kind of got me a little excited. That's all. But we don't have time to go into all the verses and look at that. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I thought, to me, I think it's something special and I think it speaks to us.
I can say I think that sense of being overwhelmed is also part of uh, the illusion that tries to draw us in. Like it's very overwhelming if we uh, fixate on every aspect of it.
Yeah.
But really, it's the how do we feel in the midst of all this, and how do we go deeper into our knowledge of self and explore how we respond to our sense of what is going on, rather than uh, worry about every single detail or the uh, magnitude of what is going on, because it's not for us to deal with the magnitude individually. That happens collectively. So we just deal with our own experience
Yeah.
in a way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, in addition to that, when Ron said overwhelmed, something came to me. That is the reason that we have to understand what it means when it says that the Hebrews became slaves in Pharaoh's house. Excuse me. Again, we're not talking about people, as Ron indicated at the onset. We are talking about us as entities, spiritual entities, having been brought into Pharaoh's house. And the house of Pharaoh, spiritually speaking, is being brought into a foreign concept of what humanity is and what life is about. And when having been brought into Pharaoh's house, the foreign concepts of the ideals that we never had to encounter until then. And this is what I see as being overwhelming. And
Yeah.
being overwhelmed because it's something that we resist. It's something that is so foreign to us until, regardless of how much pressure we receive, it is virtually impossible for us to abide by those concepts. We have to lose ourselves entirely in order to become an intricate part of Pharaoh's house, meaning that we have to lose our sense of community, our sense of family, our sense of pride in who we were created to be, our sense of spirituality, our sense of everything that's a Cabelonian, in order for us to be an intricate part of Pharaoh's house. And at the same time, being a part of Pharaoh's house, you never become as Pharaoh is. Neither the inhabitants who built the house or who always have been in the house, meaning those who live by these concepts. We are never accepted by them. And I do know that it is a badge of honor to not be accepted by the powers that be. It's a badge of honor to be rejected by the American way. As much as we have fought to be a part or to be accepted by white people, that acceptance never came. And we should be very proud of that, especially if you were one who never cared about being accepted anyway. You really wanted to be who you are. And to secondarily to that, well, let me say, Jason, to that, I offer this. The question has often come up, um, would you, as a white person, desire to be, accept being black? If you could have all the accoutrements of being white, money, um, part, possessions, everything. But the better question is this to me, is why is it that you rarely find any person of African, of Babylonian descent who want to be white? They try to be accepted. They want the things, but to change and become and be white as opposed to being an African, I've never met anyone who wanted to do that. So what am I saying? I'm saying that being who we are is so deeply ingrained in us until it is impossible for us to lose it or to forget it forever. It's there and it will not go anyplace because there is absolutely nothing that can change who God is. And the only thing that makes us think that we are different than what we were created to be is what's in our minds, not what's in our souls. Forgiveness, the depth of forgiveness in us is not embedded in our mind. It's embedded in our spiritual DNA. It's in our soul. So we could never be anything other than that. The idea of the brutality that we've been forced to endure as well as carry out um, never has become a part of us as a people. So this whole idea of being overwhelmed to me speaks volumes about who we are, and if in being overwhelmed is the catalyst that pushes us to a place of trying to understand why is this burden so heavy? Why is it that we are so easily overwhelmed, seemingly or easily overwhelmed by these things? It's simply a troubling that takes place deep within that forces us to cease making efforts to reconcile with something that we are not. I'm done. Thank you.
Pastor, great. I have a comment. Grand Rising family and honor to the ancestors. You know, I think about how at one time we were close, the African or the Kabbalah family was so close, and we were close, and the music brought us close. Because while you were speaking, I thought about James Brown made the song, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." And the Caucasian or the European knew how powerful that songs were because it really brought us unity. We had that oneness. I remember the afros, the pick, the raising of the fist. And they knew the music is what brought us so close together, brought us one. They changed the dynamics of the music till now it's just trash. So can you speak on that for me, please? Oh, one more thing, because we were proud. We were proud of who we were. And it was stripped away from us. That's what, okay, I'm done.
The younger people were proud of who we were. Some of the older people were not, because of the afros and because of us being talked about. We are Africans. The symbols were the strength of what was the catalyst that held us together, the thread that held us together. And education is what separated us. It's what created the divisions in us. the song that James Brown made, "I'm Black and I'm Proud," it served its purpose, and the purpose was bringing us together. But at the same time, he did it under pressure because black folk were walking away from him because of his embracing of Nixon, and that song brought him back into the fold. As far as today, there is a greater unity than we've ever had, and you may say, but how can that be? See, we based our unity back then on what we saw with our eyes and the experiences that we had in a physical way through the brutality of policemen and the National Guard. Today, we are closer than we ever been, but we don't see it with our eyes. There has never been a time in the history of the children of Akebalon in this country where there was a protest against this government that we did not participate in. When we participated in protests, we had to make contact with each other. Bertrand Russell was, I think it's Bertrand Russell, was the catalyst between the March on Washington. He is the one who actually pulled that thing off. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm calling the right name, because the reason they didn't put him out front is because he was openly gay. But he's the one who pulled it together. Now, we don't, when we call people together to cease being in the streets, we did it spiritually. And there was no social media that told us don't do that. Social media said stay out after we were out, but it didn't say we're not going out there in the beginning. So Evelyn, when you talk about that type of unity, especially when you talk about the music, I listened at this ex-rapper the other day talk about how the in my words, but same principle. The principle is the same as what he was talking about. He said that what happens when you want to destroy a community or a society, you take the criminals and make them the ones who the children or who the community look up to. And he was talking about rappers, how the rappers are the projected criminals in the community, and they are the ones who our children look up to. They are the ones who especially the males, look up to. Our black males look up to. And when you have them as the quote unquote projected leaders in the community, then there is a greater lean towards criminality than it is towards being who you were created to be in actuality. And again, my word is not his, but that's the principle that he was projecting. And he said that his problem with making it like the rest of them is that he was not willing to sell out. And he spoke about rappers as being sellouts because they bought into this narrative of criminality being something to embrace and to look forward to being. So the music changed, Evelyn. As you said, it's trash. And the music was not changed by us. The music was changed by record producers. When the Jews took over the record industry, that is when the music changed. People like Clive David did total disservice to our music and our community, but it's not his fault. It is the fault of those who bought into the music, bought into what he was selling, and for a gold chain and a fancy car that they didn't even own, they sold the community out. And now there are kids who never been brought up, been raised in the midst of poverty, who are seeking to be gangsters simply because of gangster rap. And at some time, maybe later, we can get into a deeper discussion of that. But all of this bullshit, all of the BS about hip hop saving the world, hip hop tore down our world. Gangster rap tore down our world. It was rap music that caused our community to lose our sense of respect for femininity. It played a big role in that, and now here we are, making every effort to change that perception of our women, and to change that perception of our women from the mindset of the black male as well as the black woman, because there are women, black women, who call each other those names that are derogatory, and they do it in a proud way. So when you look at the music, it does play a major role with us, and that is because of the frequency at which we were created to vibrate. And that is the reason that the first thing that were taken from the children of Akebalon were drums, because the messages could be carried for hundreds of miles on the beat of the drums. It was more like a telegraph, but it was the music, and there was music for to celebrate death, birth, visitations from other people, or marriages, you name it. We had music for everything. So I do also know that we are moving in the direction where our music is becoming more positive to us than it has been in quite some time, because the Motown sounds were messages against the war and messages about love between in relationships. And I remember years saying that it's a doggone shame that we talk about how much we love Jesus, and there is no music in the church that talks about how much we love each other. And we are, as we move further and further away from the church, we become closer and closer to the original essence of who we are. I hope that covers what you asked, Evan. Thank you.
Yes, sir, it did. Because when you were talking, I was looking at then, yeah, the music did impact us, but now, and the music had its place, but now everything is truly spiritual. And well, our eyes are opening up to the spiritual realm on what's happening now. Because yeah, no one had to tell us to stay home. It's just something that we felt. It was in our soul to do it. So thank you for bringing us from then to now. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Pastor.
Yes.
Morning, everybody. His name was Rustin, Bayard Rustin.
Rustin, yeah. Thank you.
Bertrand Russell was a different person.
Okay. Was that the train car dude?
Sorry?
I get all those. There's three names I get mixed up. One with the one who organized the union for the Pullman car union for black porters and conductors. Yeah. So I just get those names mixed up. But thank you for correcting that. Appreciate it. Bertrand Rustin.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, yeah, the 1970s onward was mid 1970s, particularly with Nixon onward, was a major ramping up in the resistance against the rising spiritual awareness of Black people.
Yeah.
Everything, the proverbial they knew what was happening, and they took steps to counteract it. everything in the 1970s. You look at every graph of everything bad, and in the 1970s, it just goes whoop straight up.
Matter of fact, when they assassinated King, they said they again the proverbial they said that there would never be another King or Malcolm in this country, and they made every effort. Every single president, Democrat, Republic, every one of them, especially Jimmy Carter, made policy that would make sure that there was never another leader in this country of our people. And that is the best thing that they ever did for us. When they put forth policy and effort to make sure that there was never a leader in our communities again. And keep in mind, now I'm one of those people who work closely with most of the leadership, from Stokely Carmichael to Roy Wilkins, the whole nine, all of them. I work with most of those guys. And I'm the one here saying that I'm glad we don't have a leader. And the reason I say that is because individual leadership is based upon the concept of European leadership. Every leader that we've had has been a leader who tried to integrate us into a society that was not created for us, into a society that was always detrimental to us. Every leader who came from the church or Islam, for that matter, made efforts to integrate us into a religion that rejected us. And now here we are. We have the greatest leadership that we've ever had in our lives. And that leadership is the guidance of our ancestors. And that's the leadership that we have always had since the spiritual beginning of our presence in this earth. There's always been ancestral leadership. There's always been the guidance of the Akashic consciousness. And so the benefit of that is being recognized by virtue of us not having to tell everyone to stay at home. Our ancestors did that. We did not make that declaration. We recognized it when it happened, but we didn't make that declaration. Our ancestors did that. And those are the kinds of things that I don't think we talk about enough. The ancestral guidance that we get without even really seeing it at the moment that it's happening. So again, when Nick made that statement about the 70s, hadn't thought about it in that regard, but he spot on. That's exactly when it started. So and that's the hell of it. We not only did we buy into it, our children defended it. And the negativity, they defended the rap negativity that was that distorted our music. I remember being in Haiti, and the beats that rappers used, the Haitians, they graded on them. The Haitians didn't even like hearing gospel music because of it graded on them. They would rather listen at the sounds of Motown than listen to gospel music, and that is because of vibration. And we being in the in Egypt, being in the house of Pharaoh, had grown accustomed to that, and that's why we always marched in the streets and tried to fit in, because we were vibrating at a lower level than we were supposed to vibrate at, and that is the reason we brought into this constitutional equality thing, as opposed to we're truly deeply embracing the African essence of our being. I'm done. Thank you.
I have a question. It may be, you may have already said it, but how has, well, people that look like us, but how has saying what you don't believe, saying what you don't believe, trying to form it, how has saying what you don't believe hurt us as a race?
Um, I don't think it's as much as saying what we don't believe has hurt us as it is a refusal to accept us for who we are. What am I saying to you? We have refused over the years. Have refused to accept the reality that we are Africans. We have refused. I'm sorry, we are Cabelonians, but we called it Africans, of course. We refuse to accept that over the years. And now that we are truly embracing who we are, we cannot attribute that to our shift in education or our shift in teaching our history. We attribute that to the attitude of racism, the energy that Donald Trump represents, that has prevailed in this country since day one, or has been the thing that has pushed us to embrace who we are as the Cabelonians, as Africans. And the way it did that is by showing us that there is no way in hell that we will ever be accepted and made a true part of this society. The more contemptible this administration has become in presenting itself publicly, openly, as the racists that they are. This in itself has forced us to reconcile with who we really are. I remember sitting in a meeting with Stokely, and he said that we cannot possibly be Americans, because if you are an American, you have the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, Coast Guard, National Guard, police forces, all of those back you up. None of them are your enemies. You have to be an African, because if you look at it, those same forces are the ones who colonized us as a people. And we are living in the belly of a colony now. And every time that we make an effort to become a part of what America is, these are the same forces that they use against us. So what I'm saying in essence is that it is these same forces that's being used against us that has forced us to embrace this. See, what Donald Trump is doing did not cause us to do anything. What Donald Trump is doing caused white folks to open their eyes, caused white folks to see exactly what it felt like. It gave them an experience of being abused. They thought that they had a relationship with the powers that be simply because they were white. But what they found out is they have an abuser that is equally abusive to them as to anyone else who challenges the system. And that's where we are. We are in this space now. So it wasn't us who did the awakening. It was the ancient energy of evil that did the awakening within us as a people. And you say, well, what about us who are teachers and who are participants? For the few years that we've been doing this, it still was the system that pushed us in, because it was Christianity. Systemic Christianity is what pushed us to do what we're doing by virtue of the questions that we were raising and not getting any answers. And when you take that and couple it with an understanding of history, then you begin to see the contradiction between Christianity and history. And that in itself, seeing those contradictions help us to ask even more questions. If these are contradictory, then where is the real truth? And that is what guided us to where we are. And all of it goes back again to being in Pharaoh's house, making bricks without straw. I'm done. I hope that helped, Angela.
It did. Well, the reason I was asking that question too is, when we didn't know, and then, like the people that we looked up, whether it was music, a person in music, or somebody that we looked up to, and we start to listen to some of the stuff they were saying. They didn't believe what they were saying. They were just telling us because they told them to tell us so they can, pull us in. But I understand too what you're saying too as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now don't get me wrong, Angela. The music of the 60s were messages, not just I'm black and I'm proud, but war is not the answer. The songs against the Vietnam War and the songs that brought us together, Young, Gifted, and Black, all these type songs that brought us together were songs that gave us a sense of pride. And that sense of pride that we experienced was a building block. Because if you really think about it, it is the children of the 60s who are now pushing our children or opening things up for our children to be able to see their true essence, as opposed to trying to be a part of a club that has no interest in them being a part of it. I'm a child of the 60s, and so many of us are children of the 60s who recognize this for what it is and extremely excited about how things are transpiring now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor, since you said that about the song Marvin Gaye wrote and all the other songs, but particularly Marvin Gaye, they asked him, and his music now speaks loud. I mean, it's just on point. It's timeless. But they asked him, why did you write that song? And he said, it wasn't me. It was God that inspired me to write the lyrics to the song. And when you had mentioned that song, I thought about the ancestors. I think it was the ancestors too that guided him to write that song. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yes, and his brother was in Vietnam doing it when he wrote that song.
Good discussion. Anyone else? Okay, this may be a good place to take a pause then. Let us resume tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your energy.
Guys, have a great evening. I'm going to sit here and watch the snow.
Thank you.
Bye.